submit to you daily, dear Lord, so that we could be found worthy. Dear Father, I pray that you be with all participants this evening. I thank you, dear Lord, for giving them a willing heart to share, dear Lord, so that we can all learn, so that we can all have the opportunity to restore our relationships and restore love between one another. And so, dear Lord, we invite your Holy Spirit to be with us now, guide us, and give us the words, dear Lord, that are pleasing to you, because only you deserve the glory, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
When the miles are too high for counting and the hills too steep to climb, when the world outside ain't making sense and the truth's still lost to find, when the line's too blurred for seeing and my wrong's too wrong to right, when I'm hanging by that final thread and my strong's too weak to find, I hear a song, sweet song, singing to my soul. I see a lighthouse in a hurricane and it's leading me back home. When I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Every day I do. Every day I do. Saving me a heaven when I leave this world behind, and one gives me just a little taste when he holds me late at night. They both give grace and it's amazing. They both have healing in their hands, and it ain't easy, but they're both making me a better woman. And I hear a song, sweet song, singing to my soul. I see a lighthouse in a hurricane and it's leading me back home. When I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Every day I do. Every day I do. Your finger while he got scars on his hands. Why you both promised me forever, God, I'll never understand. But when I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. When I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Oh, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you.
I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Wonderful rendition by Tanya Diamani. Again, well, usually we share with you at this moment the ground rules that we have established for conducting the discussions. Basically, you can share in the chat any comments that you may have. I do believe, however, that our host will indicate to you different ways that you can participate, or whether it will be open, floor will be open for verbal participation during the course of the discussion or at the end. In any event, we invite you to share the link with others so that persons can join, can know that we're on. We have good amount of persons that are ready. But again, this evening we're looking at recalculating career and money. And in the context of the series, Lovers in the Valley, I'm sure that there is rich content from all of this, and there's wonderful information that we can all benefit from. Our host this evening will be Pastor Jason Edwards and Sister Monique Edwards. We have shared with you each evening, and for those persons who are new, Pastor Edwards is an ordained pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He hails from Western Jamaica. His wife and himself, Monique, they are both now currently residing in Canada, and they have two sons, Micah and Seth. Some of the interesting points that you will hear him share in very interesting ways in the context of family life is that he is a strong believer, Pastor Edwards, in these at least three main things: for homes to become sanctuaries of wholeness. That's the first thing. Secondly, human interactions should always be life promoting. And thirdly, marriages are to be places of healing and flourishing. It's interesting that marriage is not a thing, but it's a place. And you would have been hearing a little bit about that in our previous discussions, and certainly this evening and beyond, you will be hearing some more. We have some interesting topics as well lined up for the remaining evenings, and we're almost halfway through the series. By the time you quit, it will be done. But I turn over now to my friends, colleagues, brethren, Pastor Jason and Monique, and they will introduce more the discussion this evening, set things up, and take us on a journey to discovering and understanding from a biblical perspective what principles are applicable to this aspect of the relationship experience. So Pastor Jason, Monique, over to you.
Hi, family. How are you doing?
Good evening, everyone.
It's good to be back.
Certainly.
Yes. So this evening, surprise, we're your guests. And we will be interviewing ourselves. And we'll be talking about recalculating. So I don't know if you remember, I'm aging myself here badly, but we're going to talk about the early GPS system, right? And when you put in your, like where you're going, your location, and like, let's say you missed a turn, it would say recalculating, you know, and it's like fancy, like IT voice, right? So I thought about that, and I thought about our journey with career and money, and how God has. Oh wow!
Just a meeting.
Yes,
Every part of our journey has been about some recalculating. From we met up, and like for the rest of it, it has been about recalculating, redirecting, and just changing direction totally. So
yes, agreed.
Yeah.
So I think, well, Leon alluded to this, but we would like some time to kind of tell our story. And then, I mean, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. Natalie and the team at TIMEsigns will help us to monitor those questions, I'm sure. But then at the end, we really want to have time to interact and for you to ask questions and for us to answer as transparently and honestly as we can.
And we are intending to make some time today for question and answers. So unlike our two previous sessions where we were just so crushed for time, we will be intentional today to manage the time.
Yes.
We intend to go about 40, 50 minutes, just sharing a little bit. And then at the end of it, we'll open the floor for questions.
Well, what that means though is that we're going to have to cut out a huge chunk of our love story, which is like the romance and the courtship part. Sorry to disappoint you, but we'll have to, that has to be a whole other conversation because we really would just want to focus on the whole career and money piece and the recalculating part.
Well, you'll still get some little bits of juicy pieces, you know, you have those little chunks of meat. We intend to share some of it.
Yes.
But
all right. So I think we can dive in at June 2011.
Oh, I forgot. Leon, I wanted to say thank you for your introduction. It's really nice when people who you know, who really know you, introduce you. It makes a difference. So thank you.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. So we're going to dive into our story at about June 2011. I'm going to set the stage. So at that point, I'm a young lawyer. I'm about a year and a half into my career and I'm crushing it. Well, as far as I think, and that's my story and I'm sticking to it. I'm crushing it. So I did 2 years in an international baccalaureate overseas, 3 years in a Bachelor of Science program, double major. And I'm saying this deliberately to give you the backdrop against how hard it can be when God says, no. So 2 years international baccalaureate in Canada, full scholarship, right? Straight out of high school.
So you were here before?
Yes, straight out of high school.
So you came back to Jamaica for me?
Oh, well.
God sent you back.
Right, straight out of high school, full scholarship. And then worked for a year at Scotiabank. And then Bachelor of Science, double major, political science, international relations, first class honors, crushing it, right?
Man.
You seen that trend here? And then LLB, direct entrance, straight to Barbados, did a 3-year law degree in 2 years. Upper second class.
I am
honors.
afraid of her when she's working.
No, crushing it again, right? So I'm made for this, right? Come back to Jamaica, Norman Malley Law School, 2 years, certificate of legal education. I think I did fairly well. Maybe a little bit too much partying, but that's a whole other story for a whole other time. So 9 years of post-secondary education under my belt. And finally, I'm a lawyer and life is fantastic, right? But I'm missing one thing.
I was missing.
Yes, exactly. I'm missing a man. Right? So, and I'm kissing too many frogs here. You kiss a certain number of frogs and you're like, okay, it's not the frogs, it's me. We need to talk to God about this. And they're not turning into princes, they're just saying frogs. So anyway, I'm in for June 2011, and I'm in 40 weeks of fasting and prayer, prostrate on my face before God. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I find the man of my dreams?
Single people, listen.
No, seriously, I'm amazing. I'm cute, I'm smart. At that point, I was about, I want to say 30 pounds lighter. Like life was, I'm eating a Coca-Cola bucket ship. Like, why I can't find a husband? So I'm like, all right. I did a lot of soul searching. At that point, I was a nominal Christian. So I'm like fully before God now saying, okay, I'm going about this the wrong way. I know I did, stuff he didn't ask me to do, but okay, I'm sorry. Can we do this your way this time? So this is week 24. And I'm like, God, what else do I need to do? Seriously, like you're closing a lot of doors. It's obvious that these doors are closed, like resounding, like not just close them softly, but like blam, slam doors. But you're not opening any doors. Like, am I gonna be single for the rest of my life? I don't think I can be single. Can I be single? I don't think I'm called to that ministry. That's not for me. And I am praying, like pouring my heart out before God. And so I want to give you a little snippet of our love story. I'm at West Jamaica. Do I get to say this here?
No, but
no.
So that's what's happening on your end. That's what's happening in your life. And
so what's happening
on my
life?
side, I wasn't crushing it, guys. I never finished. I scraped through NCU. Get a fairly decent GPA, 3.5. Yeah. I was working and studying, mind you. So finished NCUs, came to West Jamaica, did a couple stints in different places, and was just looking forward to starting internship. And I think by the time I got to June, I was I think it was in Petersfield District, I believe, with Pastor Morgan, Howard Morgan. So I was doing internship then.
Can I say something here? I wouldn't say you weren't crushing it. You were crushing it in a different way. And that's part of why I fell in love with you. So like I look at your transcript from NCU and it looks a little schizophrenic. You got some A's and then some C minuses, and I'm like, yeah, okay. But I was put through school by my family. You're working, colporting, and putting yourself through school. And the one thing that I remember you said to me that I went like, ooh, this is a guy I could do life with. You're riding a bicycle and cutting people's yards with a weed whacker to make money to go through school.
That's true.
So you're crushing it in a different way. Those are skill sets like I didn't have. And that's stuff that I admire about you.
Thank you. So, yes.
You're blushing. I think you're blushing.
All right. So that's where I was, and by June I was dating, and also the relationship ended, and was thinking, where do I go from here? So we were kind of doing similar things in a different way.
Yeah,
so whereas
doors
were being closed, but whereas you were praying and fasting, I did a more practical. I took a more practical approach with my situation, and so we
both
single.
Yeah.
Some miracle was about to happen.
Yeah.
And so you were at West Jamaica.
Yeah. So my mom asked me to pick up some quarterlies at West Jamaica conference, and I'm like, oh, all right. I didn't remember. So I was already dressed for work. And as I said, at that point, I looked good. So I was in these skin tight, skinny jeans just came in. You have to Vaseline yourself to go down in those jeans, like a pair of those jeans.
Those are the contraband pants.
Yes, the contraband pants. And I've had on stilettos and this body blouse, they call them, what they call those again?
What did your mother say about that?
She's like, where are you going in that? I'm like, it's just a conference. I'm just gonna grab the quarters. Nobody will see me. It's fine. I'll go to the back entrance. I'm like, furthermore, I'm gonna find my husband today.
And what did she say to that?
She said, no self-respecting Christian man is gonna look at you in those jeans. And I'm like, he might be a Christian, but he's still a man, and he is gonna look at me in these jeans.
For the record, I did not look at her. Yeah.
Anyway, I was just being cheeky with her because I didn't want to change I was already dressed. I'm like, oh, I forgot I was going to the conference. Anyway, fine, whatever. So I'm there. One of my cousins is a pastor, and I saw Pastor. Well, Pastor is not my cousin, but I saw Pastor. And I said, Pastor, you don't know any nice young men who looking for a wife. So he said, oh, please, you don't need me to help you. You probably are beating off the guys. I'm like, no, I can't. And he was laughing at me, didn't believe me that I couldn't find a husband. Anyway, I saw annoyed. I was like, he's taking this for a joke. This is serious. It's life and death. So I saw my cousin, who is a young pastor at that time. He's now more senior and doing extremely well for himself in West Jamaica conference, Andre Wallace. And I said to him, Andre, you don't have any friends you could introduce me to? This is really bad. I can't find a husband. He said to me, oh, sister, you looking for a husband? I said, yes. He said, let us pray. I stopped exactly where he was, right in the middle of West Jamaica conference. I held my hand and prayed for my husband. I was like, okay, thank you.
So I know Andre is a real man of God.
Exactly.
Yep.
I was like, finally. Anyway, I'm there. I had to struggle, lift the quarterlies, put them in the car. I saw it. I'm like, where are all the strong men? Why am I doing this? So I get into the car. I'm about to drive off. It's my mom's van. And someone taps on the glass, the passenger side glass. And I look up and I see this guy. And I'm like, why not doing? I'm like, can I help? Hey, I was wondering if I could get a ride into town. I said, God, seriously? I'm looking for a husband. No man has spoken to me except my cousin and Pastor Williams all day. And the one guy who pays me attention as a walk-foot man, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
And this is how we get the unlikely matchup. So this is the first caption of what we're focusing on an unlikely matchup.
But I was annoyed with God.
I
was like, seriously, God, after 9 years of post-secondary education, and I look good. I know I look good. The one guy that talks to me all day is a walk-foot man. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Anyway, fine. So I'm snippy. By this time, I'm snippy. So I'm like,
attitude.
Attitude. Turn up. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna wait on me to get my lunch in the drive-thru, sure, I can drop into the town. I neck roll, eye roll, everything roll. And he's like, oh, sure. Totally oblivious. Opens the van door, jumps in, puts on the seatbelt, hi. I'm like, ugh. Anyway, I'm driving and I'm like, so, let's be polite. Let's do the polite thing. I'm making conversation. I'm like, hey, so yeah, what's your name? And blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so what do you do? He's like, oh, I just finish ministerial school and blah. And I'm like, oh, so you're a student. I'm like, oh God, this gets even worse. It doesn't even work. Oh no, seriously. Anyway, so he's like, no, I'm not a student. I am an intern with Pastor so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. And he's explaining. So he says to me, are you married? And I said, no.
She was wearing a ring.
Yeah, you know, as I said, this is my coming to Jesus moment. So I had this cosmetic ring on my hand. And he's like, are you married? I'm like, no. Are you? He said, no. So he says to me, why aren't you married? So I said, well, I'm kind of disappointed in men, generally speaking, and even more disappointed in what the church is putting out as men. Like, I'm not impressed. What about you? Why aren't you married? He's like, well, I'm looking forward to being married one day. And I think what qualifies me for marriage is my relationship with God. And I kid you not, I heard God say to me audibly, this is your husband. And he said it. And I went, what? I was like, don't say another word, God. I got this.
So I want to interject here and celebrate myself. No, I want to really big up God, and I want us to highlight that, and we're going to bring this out as we go through the conversation, that we met. God was doing something special. The timing was just perfect. And it was the openness to God that allowed us to connect. When I say it was an unlikely matchup, part of the reason I say that is normally for me to even step towards a girl.
But you didn't step towards me. You have to.
No. But this is why I make it.
I just want the people to know I look you.
No, and that's why I'm celebrating myself.
Oh, okay, good. Understand? Because I pursued you.
I need to kiss myself.
Kiss yourself. That's so pretty.
But the reality is, we were able to connect because we were open to the move of the Spirit. And one of the things I want to say, especially as we talk about career, we don't want to get to the place where in trying to make life, you disconnect yourself from the source of life or shut down your senses.
Is that gem number one today?
Could be.
All right.
Or your senses become clogged because we met up and this unlikely matchup happened because her senses or antenna was tuned.
So in my contraband jeans with my contraband ring on my finger and my attitude, I was still able to hear God's voice clearly say to me, this guy is your husband.
Yep.
And immediate attitude adjustment.
And I want to highlight it because today, I think a lot of people are out there looking companion, but they are doing it from a wrong place. And these days I see a lot of people are looking companionship out of covetousness and their pride. So it works like a double-edged sword. We see, I am a man, I am looking a woman, and I am looking at what's happening for her. I'm looking at how attractive she is. I'm looking at how well she's doing in her career and what that means for me. But I'm not counting the cost of what it's going to take to love somebody who may be that accomplished, who is such a go-getter, stuff like that.
Type A.
Then the other side of it too, sometimes we see people and we are going at them and we think we deserve them because so much is happening for me. So a man or a woman for that matter, who feels a lot is going on for them, they will become attracted to somebody who is toxic, but he looks good and he profiles well, especially as we talk in the context of career. He's driving a good car, he's appealing in certain ways. And a lot of these men like to go, even you have men who go after innocent women. I am so disturbed by the men who sit in the rum bar and say they want a church girl. So you realize that those persons are triggered by their covetousness. So when you have pride, when pride and covetous meet, it's a dangerous combination because the Christian girl who's well protected and sheltered by the church sees a man in the world, who I call them uncircumcised Philistine, And no offense to anybody who you're not in the church yet and you're coming up on the rough side. That's where you are, the uncircumcised Philistine. And the uncircumcised Philistine is now attracted to this maiden in Israel. But because he profiles her, so much is happening for his career and he looks good, her pride may cause her to feel she deserves a man like that. These days we hear about the high value man. And so I want to take time to highlight this because when we met, I had no high value, nothing in the terms of what the world is projecting, but I had God. And Vinique was at the place where she was open and responsive to God. And yeah, that's where the connection happened. That's where the miracle happened. And I just thought that is worth highlighting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have nothing to add to that. And the story, or in the Bible where they said, and the story is written in the book of so and so and so. Oh well, the story of our love story is written in another book for another day, another time. We'll talk about that because we really want to unpack the career piece.
Yeah.
So suffice to say, we have a.
Suffice to say, before you move, she went back to work with her head spinning.
Yeah.
I caused her head to spin.
Yes, let me say that part. So I drop him off. I'm about to drop him off now. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't let him get away. How am I going to figure out how to connect with him without looking too pushy? Like, I don't care if I look pushy, but I don't want to scare him off. So I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, okay. So I said to him, all right, well, we never quite finished our conversation and I'd love to catch up with you sometime. And here's my card. So I give him my business card. And I go back to work and I can't even concentrate. I said to my boss, look, I'm going home. I'm taking the rest of the day off. And I go home and I phone my husband. And my mom is like, what? What did I miss? Anyway, I'm unpacking the stuff for her. And she's like, I think I know that guy. I'm like, find him. So this is a Friday afternoon. She gets and she's like, what? I'm like, everybody in the Adventist church in Jamaica. Find this guy. So she gets on the phone. She calls around. She finds out where he's preaching the next day. And I am up at 5 a.m. Wait, I'm like, Mom, we're gonna be late. We have to get there on time. She said, are you okay? I'm like, yep, I'm fine. Let's go. We can't be late. So I go and I hunt him out. And after church, he comes to the back door and he shakes me and he's like, what are you doing here? Have you come to spy out the land? And I look him dead in his eye and I say to him, as a matter of fact, I have. And he just laughs and laughs and laughs. And that's like the beginning of like a wonderful courtship. 1 year to the day we met, we got married, and yeah.
And then we start to journey. But then the unlikely matchup comes also in the context of career.
Yes.
So here you were now having a pastor and a lawyer. And for those of you who have gone to NCU, you know that the pastors have a type and careers that they feel are more compatible
and reasonably
so with ministry. So you have a lawyer who is going to be extremely busy and you have a pastor who is going to be extremely busy. This is I'm
not the wallflower. I'm not the homemaker. I'm not going to be home with 4.5 children. This is not that, right? Yeah. And we obviously we come from very different backgrounds socially. And that starts to, we get a hint of what's going to face us just before we get married. Like a little red flag goes up that, okay, guys, you're in for a bit of a rough adjustment here. I don't care about his background. I just love the fact that he loves God and he's all the things I've wanted, but didn't know that I needed.
Yep. And that's true because you did say you had a list from a sermon you listened to that was entitled The Missing Rib, and there were about 13 things.
When I was 14 or 15, a pastor came to our church. He preached a sermon about the mystery of the missing rib, and I wrote down every single characteristic he said you should look for in a godly spouse. And Jason ticked every single box. Maybe there was one box I was iffy about, but he ticked, it's still in my Bible. The sermon is still in my Bible, but he ticked the boxes. So I was like, wow. But then there was a situation with my job where I had to switch jobs. And it meant that like what we had expected to be earning for that time to put towards the wedding, we wouldn't have all that money. And we had a guest list of about 200 and some people. This is Jamaica, right? It's expected to invite everybody and their auntie to your wedding, right? And plus the marina passed, oh my gosh. So we make a decision ultimately that we are not going to put off the wedding. We are going to get married, but we're going to cut that guest list to about 60 people. To paraphrase badly, I had a family member tell me, how do I put this in very not so unkind words? In patois, at the person boy I push it and your money in my look. If he can't afford to marry you, make you not go sit down. Words to that effect. Translation, he's broke, he has nothing to offer you. If he can't afford to give you the wedding that you want, why are you going to marry him? And he's pushing it because he wants your money. Like, it was toxic. I shut it down. I wasn't having, no, that's not true. I was rattled for a little bit because I was very close to my family. And I went and prayed about it. And God, this is the second vision that I ever got from God in my life. He gave me this clear vision about the fact that he called us to be together. We were going to have some rough seasons, but he would be with us through it, and he had a specific calling over our lives.
And I think, again, we were interjecting here because we are talking about a relationship that came together purely on the move of God.
Yeah.
Like I to this day, I say that God set us up. Because normally to like a girl, I have to watch her. And it's the first I was seeing Vanique. I've never met her, never crossed path and stuff. So you watch now, God is about to do a miracle. And if you were to listen to the people in your life who assess doing well, and we are in the career and the money, assess doing well by how somebody shows up materially.
Yeah.
And you see, when we talk about career, how we are, and we go about relationship, how we are immediately at risk for the wrong matchup, because so many people around us and sometimes ourselves are assessing by how things appear materially. And I am saying that can be deceptive.
Yeah, and the truth is, you weren't my type. I'd never dated a Christian guy before. Like, I had a type and it wasn't that.
Yep.
For whatever reason, that's a whole other psychology lesson for a whole other day. But I had a type and it was not a Christian man.
Yep.
And so you're right, God set us up.
Yep.
So we skip over all that and get into us settling into marriage. So the first red flag goes up that there's trouble on the horizon. And this trouble is going to be around career and money and family's response and expectations. And, but, you know, we're not taking that on too much. Lovely wedding, wonderful day. Awesome, we're moving on. So I'm getting to marriage now and we're focused on I'm focused on my career. We're married, we did the thing, we're good. And
shortly after that, I got a district. So,
yes, and I started my own law firm.
Yeah.
And we're doing the thing.
Shortly after meeting you, I got my first district. Yes. So it was June 2011.
Yeah.
June, I got my district.
So you're busy, I'm busy. We're doing the thing. And unbeknownst to us, God is like, and here comes the refining process. Here, recalculating.
Yep.
It starts. But he isn't overt about it. It's just little things that start happening that you start to get a sense that things aren't going to work out the way you anticipated. So the first thing that happens is I get this very strong conviction to stop practicing criminal law. That's a whole story in and of itself. Because there's nothing wrong with the practice of criminal law. It was just within the context of stuff that was happening in Jamaica at the time that conviction came.
But we also want to highlight that as we journey in our careers and we journey in life, it's going to be important to keep our ears open to God. And for me, who was there as your spouse, when that conviction came, money could not be the basis on which we assess.
No, because for those people who practice law, you know that criminal law is your bread and butter. People always are going to be in trouble and you're guaranteed to make an income. So when you take that part out, civil law is great, but unless you have your old money and unless you have an established practice, then that's risky because, and I didn't even weigh that at the time, but like a typical land transaction will take, and sorry for the law class, let's be here, but like 90 days is if you're lucky, if it's done in 90 days, some can take years depending on if there are any complications. Imagine waiting for your next paycheck for 90 days or waiting for your next paycheck for 6 months or a year. It can take a long time. But I thought, oh, if I honor God in this, he's going to open up the windows of heaven and pour me out a blessing. And he's going to honor me in front of all the people who are critical about these decisions that I'm making about my life. Because by this time, the criticism is coming.
Yep.
Because you're not what people thought you were gonna be anymore. You're getting closer to God. And as you get closer to God, it's going to become offensive to people.
And you may appear fanatical, and then somebody is to be blamed. So in this case, we have to blame the preacher man. It's the preacher man. And I want to again pause here because here it is. I have my wife. We come together. Both of us pressing into God. She's pressing into God, and I feel that as her spouse, it's necessary to support her in her convictions, especially the ones that she's saying she feels God is saying this. Because the truth is, I was excited when God told her I was the one. And so when we get to the place now where she's saying she feels God is telling her this, it's going to become important now that we don't use the money basis to say, boy, you sure?
Right.
And I want to underscore this as we go through, because I'm saying that we don't want our careers to cloud or to affect our response to God and close our ears. And if we're not careful, that's what's happening today with our journey.
That's true. So anyway, I take the leap of faith, but it doesn't work out how I anticipate. I'm into just civil law, mostly real estate, and not like it's hard. It's difficult. There are times when we're not making any income for months at a time because all of our stuff is tied up pending.
But we're missing something. So to complicate things, when you started your practice, there was another.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
So we had a contract. There was a breach of contract, and I ended up pregnant as a result of the breach of contract. Yes. So for all of us adults on the call, you can do the mathematics and figure out how that breach of contract works. And this now starts to drive a wedge between us.
Yeah.
Because I'm angry. I've put 9 years of my life into preparing for this career. I've started a law firm. I've borrowed millions of dollars to start this, to do everything. And now I'm pregnant, and it's a difficult pregnancy. I can't keep doing anything. I can't work. I'm not earning. We have debts to pay. And
this is where you just go straight down in the valley. It's no slide in the valley. You get dropped in the valley.
There's no warning. There's no parachute. There's nothing. It's just you're standing one moment and next minute you're in free fall. Everything is bottoming out below you, and there's nothing to hold on to.
Yep.
Right. So I'm pregnant, sick, home, not working. I have a firm that's running, but like we're not making any money. We're in debt, and
so you borrowed to start the business.
Yeah, so. And it's bad. It's pretty bad. Anyway, we're pushing through. We're making it happen. But your career is also taking a beating as well too, because I'm not well and you're trying to support me. You're not as present as you need to be with some of the stuff you're doing, and people are, in a sense, complaining about it. Your parishioners aren't necessarily happy about how absent you are in some of the cases, and that's fair. But that's what was happening at the time,
which became instructive as we journey along. Because this is going to now shape how I evaluate ministry, and when I would have to make some hard decisions, how I'm going to go about that.
So we fast forward a little bit, and the baby is born, and I'm trying to bounce back, trying to get back to work, trying to get my back in the game, trying to do things. You have a nanny at home helping with the baby. And then there's another breach of contract, and I'm pregnant again, baby number 2. And at this point, our marriage is hanging on by.
And this time she's mad. She's pretty mad.
Beyond mad. Like, they're not words to describe how mad I am at this point. I'm like, no. You don't, at this point, I'm like, you don't take me seriously. You don't take my career seriously. Yeah, I'm at two out of Jerome. I'm at 2 out of the 4.5 at this time. And I'm like, you don't take me seriously. You don't take my career seriously. When you met me, you knew that I did not want to become like a homemaker. I was invested in my career. This is what I wanted to do. And you just had one simple job. One job. And you're failing at that job. And it was bad. In the middle of all of this, and that second pregnancy, yeah, he breached the contract all by himself. Yep. In that second pregnancy is worse than the first one in terms of just how sick I am. And in terms of the financial burden that it puts on us as well.
Well, partly because for the second pregnancy, the doctor was able to kind of solve it.
It cost us a fortune.
So it did cost us, but in terms of, for the first one, I would say you were kind of worse because you lost so much weight and you couldn't keep anything down for the entire period. True. For the second one, though, the struggles were different.
Yeah, but we're broke.
Yep.
Beyond broke.
We were surviving.
Okay, all right. I like your perspective, very positive and optimistic. In my mind, we're broke. This is bad. So,
it was one salary, one.
Yeah, your salary.
One salary, yeah.
A pastor's salary.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a strong one salary.
We can laugh now, but I remember the day we pulled out the last Pampers out of the bag, and we're like, "Honey, what are we gonna do?" And you're like, "Okay, I figure something out." And I went outside. He came back he went to this Chinese man shop and came back with 3 Pampers in a see-through plastic bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I just locked myself in the room and cried.
Yep.
It was so bad.
Yep.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was a
low moment.
Yeah, that was real valley stuff. Yeah.
No, we didn't take out the last Pampers. The baby pooped the last Pampers and there was none left.
You had some, yeah.
You had one? What happened? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Okay. Anyway, so suffice to say, this is, and then in the middle of all of this, God says to me, find someone to leave your law firm with and go to Canada.
Yep. You are noting the God says. The God says, I am wondering why God is not talking to the pastor. Like, what is happening here? That God is saying, and I don't think I'm going to I don't want to overemphasize it too much, but we want to be able to be hearing God's voice in the relationship and to be responding to God. And one of the things I appreciate about Vinny, it was challenging, but was how quick she responded to her conviction.
But this one, I didn't respond to so quickly. I lived in Canada before. It's cold. I didn't want to be here. I had already invested so much in my career, so much in the law firm. We had bought a car that we were still paying for. Like we had plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of dragged my feet on that one, to be honest. And God was like, all right, well, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And then more stuff starts falling apart. Mm-hmm. Every transaction that we had lined up for the conceivable future just started falling through one by one. Mm-hmm. Like every real estate transaction that we had at the law firm just started to just
recalculating.
Like God is like, okay.
He's pulling off the tires off the car, like scrapping the car while you're trying to drive in.
Yep. The bank is writing me about repossessing my car. Like, he's like, I'm taking away everything. I want you to go in that direction, and that's the direction I want you to go into.
And this becomes very testing. And this is I think, one of the real tests of your career. Mm-hmm. Our career is what gives us identity to an extent. We study years. You spent 9 years. When that is going, if you don't have something to hold on to, you're going to lose yourself.
Yeah. I remember the hardest point in my life when I got mad with God at that point was when so in law, you get the deposit from your client for the real estate transaction. You hold that until the deal closes and you hand over their title. Then you can disperse to yourself out of that. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting and looking at deposits in my trust account that were millions of dollars, but legally I couldn't touch any of that money, and I couldn't even buy food. And And I was like, God, what are you doing? And all that money is on hold and the transactions are just stuck. There's no end date in sight, right? And you have to, all you have at this point is your integrity. So if you lose your integrity, you have absolutely nothing left at that point. And just going, God, why are you doing this to me? I've done every single thing you asked me to do. Why would you allow all of this to happen? So eventually I give in. I'm like, okay, God, whatever. You've asked me to do this. I'm going to do it. I go through the process of doing what he asked me to do. And I arrive in Canada December 16, 2016, minus 40 something stupid in a spring jacket, because that's all I had. $700, a passport, student visa, and a backpack. And just went, okay, God, what now? And the baby was 6 months, and it was an emergency cesarean. See, that's the whole other story for a whole other time, but that was an emergency cesarean. We almost lost him. They had to resuscitate him when he was born. And the older baby son was a year and a half, year and 6 months. So like they're with dad. I am sitting in Canada in a relative's basement going 2 years. No, it couldn't be 2 years. They're 2 years apart. Yeah. Or whatever. The math is bad, but you get the point. And I'm sitting in my relative's basement going, okay, God, what now? And God says, oh, I thought you'd never ask. And that begins a season of God just opening doors and opening doors and opening doors and opening doors to say, this is where I want you to be. But by the time I get there, our marriage is pretty much done. The deal is you have the kids until I am done with the masters, and then I'll take the kids, and then you can do whatever you want to do after that. And so
that was like a real valley moment.
I think that's
a valley
lowest
season.
Lowest.
When life is coming at you hard, and it's funny, and I think I want to again pause, because how do we get from the place where we know God did a miracle
to bring us together
to getting to the place where there is no major violation, but just life happening, and the emotional strain and lack of support and stuff cause us to feel like it may be in our best interest.
And you can imagine the family members who are talking about the person boy in the beginning, what's going on with them at this point in time. So we're dealing with the fallout from family. We're dealing with everything at this point, and it's just okay. We're done.
And it's funny because there are people in their relationship who go through stuff because as I'm saying, major violation. At this, it's just life happening and it's hard. And I struggled part of what was difficult between us was the struggle to connect emotionally. So that was like a real mountain climb for me.
So you're going through all this, and your husband is not the touchy-feely type. He's not in touch with his emotions. He's kind of like disconnected. That's just like insult to injury. But I want to talk about how we walk our way back from the edge of the precipice, though.
Well, so
because clearly we're still here.
The thing is, we are doing this valley season for a reason, because when you get down in the valley has great potential. The valley, things wash away from the high ground to the valley, and the valley sometimes become fertile if we will allow God's Spirit to do its work. And I remember even when we would have gotten to the low point, I remember you always say this, you knew that God, you didn't end up in the relationship on a frolic of your own. That was your common phrase. And I want to say to somebody in their marriage or somebody who is looking, this is the value of getting married with a conviction that God led you. And whether or not you may have had a dream or you just went in on a strong principled approach, this is what's going to help you in the valley. When we don't react to the hardship and just go make things harder. Things are going wrong, we go wrong. So we were in the valley out of the frustration of life.
For sure.
Yeah. It was just life.
And the bottom fell out so fast. We're talking about within the space of we got married in 2012, and by 2014, because we had Micah in 2014, by 2014, the bottom is falling out of your marriage. And by 2015, it's...
Yep. And I think we are going through, and we were doing life. But as you do life, you realize you're going to need glue. We need to find
another gem. We need some glue.
We need to find the glue in marriage, because it's the glue that's going to really take you through.
Hold things together.
You
know, we decided to try one more time. We're going to fast and pray one last time.
And we had intervention. We sought intervention. Remember, we had some friends.
But us being now separated was even after that intervention.
Yeah, but even when we were separated, the friends
they were involved.
So there was one couple that ministered to us in that season in the valley. And we need that. We need intervention. We need support.
That's another gem right there.
We need the connection with people who have our interests at heart, godly people, credible people, and people who will make time.
What I want to underscore here is how lonely the valley is, even in the church.
Yeah, and we have heard that.
Yeah, but we want to emphasize this.
Yeah.
We didn't have anybody that we could turn to. There's just one couple that we could just open up to and tell them exactly what was happening to us.
Yeah, and that becomes hard, especially as a professional.
But as a pastor too.
So you are the pastor. You're a lawyer.
Who are we gonna talk to?
Yep. So again.
Yeah, it was hard. But then after that season of fast and prayer, we decided to try one more time. We decided that you were gonna come with the kids and we were gonna give it another shot.
I think one of the things that's important, that even though we're pressing through the valley, we never had any intentional pulling away from each other. And what I mean by that, even when you went overseas, one of the things that caused me to earn some points, I would say, was I was there fulfilling my role with the children,
and still supporting the business
that you left behind. And I think that is also valuable. It's valuable in the sense that so often when things are going wrong, people pull their support from the other person,
or they
sabotage the other person,
or a third party gets involved,
and then the valley now you start to have
it's created like a big nuclear explosion that happens.
So I think that's kind of important to underscore.
So someone wants to know how long you've been married. In June of this year it will be
11 years.
11
years.
So we give it one more shot, and you make a decision. You make an epic decision to leave your career, something you've studied for, work, put yourself through for.
I would say, take a break or leave.
You're whatever it looked like. The point is you had to give up your job.
Yeah. And that wasn't an easy decision. But again, I when I made the decision, I make a lot of my decisions from a practical, spiritual perspective. So I looked at the fact that here it was, you have the pastor, my wife was away. We had planned to go together, but then it never worked out.
Things fell apart.
Yeah, so Vinique went ahead. And when we were now contemplating reuniting, it was under strenuous conditions. But I weighed the situation, and in weighing it, part of what I considered was, if it is, my wife is not there, how is that going to affect my ministry? How credible would I be? Could I be in ministry? And so I did the evaluation and I said, I think at that point, it was more necessary for me to go minister to my family than to be worrying about securing my job. It was more necessary to go minister to my family than to be worried about a job, because if I only have the job, then I may not have any family. And it was not, to tell you the truth, it wasn't such a big struggle.
I don't think it's struggle, but it was a major decision though, and it caused a rift on your side of the family.
Yep. A lot more criticism.
Yeah. So more fire.
More fire and fallout. And you start to realize again, guys, when we are called to the ministry of family, and I want to say that when you're called to the ministry of family, you will be surprised sometimes how much discouragement you can get from relatives. When you're called to the ministry of family, you'll be frightened to the amount of discouragement that can come from relatives.
So by the time you get here with the boys, we're making some radical decisions. So one, we decided to homeschool the kids, right? For various reasons, but that was the decision that we made, again, spirit-led. But that then means that somebody has to be at home.
Yep.
And then, so deciding to homeschool is ultimately a decision to be a single income family.
So we go back to the single income family again. Hopefully the income can have some muscles this time.
And then we do rock, paper, scissors, and you lose. So you get to stay home with the kids. Just kidding. We prayed about it and we said anybody who got a job first would go and the other one would stay home with the children. It was very fair. We let God split the vote on that one. And I got the job first. So we stayed home with the kids.
And staying domestic stuff was never a challenge for me.
Yeah, but we can't underscore society's view of that. Look at what is happening now. Here you have a female breadwinner, right? In a foreign country, everybody knows you go to America, you go to Canada, life is not easy, especially as an immigrant, right? All hands on deck, everybody needs to be working. And the man stays home with the kids and the woman is working. Just culturally, that's not a good look. So we have a female breadwinner and a male homemaker. That sets off a whole other ripple effect, a wave of criticism and more judgment, more hellfire. It was epic. But we stuck to our gun on that one. We said, God, you're leading us, and if this is how you're leading us,
and we worked it practically. We discussed it to make the decision, but we continued to affirm ourselves in the decision. Because one of the things we looked at, we recognized if both of us were going, by the time I was going to go in the market, or when I came, not being able to get back in ministry, which I did try to do, it's if I were to get maybe a low regular entry-level job, I would only be able to pay for daycare.
Right. So it wouldn't be any.
So when we look at it, we said no.
Financially, it wouldn't even be beneficial.
Financially, because we are talking about career and money. And so we want to just highlight the practicality of the decision. Then we realized if I went to just work and say I'm for the sake of working, my children's gonna be a disadvantage. I will literally working to pay somebody to take care of my children.
And what values are they instilling in our kids? What are they learning? What's happening to them when they're away from us for hours at a time as newcomers in a society that they're not familiar with? You know, as people of color, we have to deal with issues of all sorts of stuff that happen, and they haven't fully developed their personalities yet. Is that something that we want to do? So we sat down, we prayed about it, talked about it, and the decision was we're going to be homeschooled, we're going to be a single income family, and we really don't care what anybody, and that's when we just shut out everything and everybody. We're like, done, checking out. We're doing our own thing with God over here. How did we handle our money? Because we're talking about career, but also talking about money. So now you have the female is now earning. Do you want to share how we handled our money and how that became a non-issue?
It's interesting because back in Jamaica, when both of us were working, after we got married, we never make a decision. Well, we made a decision, but the decision then was we continue to have our separate accounts, and then we would just cover things. And there were reasons for why we decided that. But when we came here, you then
we did decide to approach things
differently. It was a restart, recalculating, new start, and so Vinique was intentional to say your name goes on the account, everything. So we have one account. So from the time we came, that has been the arrangement. There's one account, and we wrote all the monies through the account, whatever that is and stuff. And that has been amazing.
And all the assets we have acquired, they've been in my hard stuff has been if it can't be in both of our names, then we're not gonna purchase it.
Or in some cases, you have put it in my name.
Yes.
Which is again amazing. And we are highlighting this again just to emphasize that the valley does not mean we are going to be destroyed down there. If we are willing and press forward, we can see amazing things grow out of the valley. So I think that would quickly take us to
we're looking at the decisions that we made in the valley. So we're like homeschool, we're at single income. Now we're talking about there's a lot of pressure at one point. People were like, aren't you gonna at least try to get your legal credentials in Canada?
Yes. Yeah, that's a major piece before we make the jump to
the other section.
Other section.
And I decided no. For anybody who has ever sat the bar, you know it is torture. And when I thought about what that would take in terms of time, effort, energy, money, just everything for our family, I decided, no, that's not something that I want to do. As a mom now of 2 young kids, we're rebuilding our relationship. We're in a foreign country. We have only each other to depend on. That's not something that I want to invest my time or effort in doing.
Yep.
And we prayed about it. We got some very strong convictions about that, and that we closed that door.
Yep. Yeah. I have watched you be so intentional about that. Just unbelievable.
All right. And then I also turned down an offer to do a PhD program because my thoughts were, that's not how we should journey though. I don't think one person in the family should just acquire all these things and just journey, and the other person's kind of like stagnant. And for centuries, millennia women have done that. They stayed home with the kids, and the husband has earned and grown in his career until eventually they drift. Like there's, when the kids are grown, she doesn't have a sense of, okay, what is she gonna do herself? And I said to Jason, the kids are young now, but ultimately they're gonna become independent. They won't need full-on care time. Well, now is a good time for you to upgrade your qualifications. So I'll decline this, and you can take that time and resources instead to do your masters.
I feel that was just so powerful in the sense that not only did you put your PhD on hold, you said you found a school for me. So like
I arm wrestled him.
That was exceptional, guys. That was just exceptional.
Look, I said to him, in the wonderful world of what if money is not an issue, what would you want to study? Because he's like, I'm not an academic. I don't want to go back to school. I hate studying. I'm like, yeah, well, you're going to do it. Because we live in a country that discriminates against people who don't have Canadian experience and don't have Canadian qualifications. And by the time the boys are older, it's going to be a heavy lift for you to get back into the workforce if that's something that you wanted to do at that time. So while you're at home with them, what would you like to do? And you said, oh, I would love to do something in marriage and family therapy. I'm like, okay, done.
Yep.
And found the school.
She found the school. We moved in a bid to go to school.
I looked for a job near to the school.
A new job. And again, this is phenomenal because sometimes when you're going through the valley and you face the ugly or the difficult and pleasant parts of the valley, then people can lose the will to continue. But these are aspects of the story that make the valley beautiful. And we have a portion to say thank you, because that meant a lot for you to take the initiative to say, you pause what you were doing, let's climb together. And yeah, that was an important
by this
move.
time you had scored some major points.
Yes. Credits.
And I trusted you. And I wanted to journey with you. That was it, right? So it's not like, oh, I have to grab everything I can get because I don't know if you're gonna be around, so I need to do. I mean, no, you've proven to me that you're in this with me.
So you're saying that the time I took to invest in my family,
yes,
that time earned me some real good air miles.
Air miles. Depending on what you want to fly. So another thing that we did is we evaluated our financial circumstances. And this is the last thing I want to cover before we move on. We looked at the fact that we had aging parents, we had young children, we weren't young anymore, we're almost 40, and we needed to start to make plans for our life and our retirement, and realize that some of the dreams that we had, we were going to have to just
maybe dial back and put them on hold.
Because if we buy the $500,000 home, we wouldn't be able to take care of our parents. Or if we took care of our parents and bought the $500,000 home, we wouldn't be able to give our kids a good start.
So we got to the place basically we were saying it's not the American dream that we are going to be, or the Canadian dream for that matter, but it's going to be what God is revealing as His purpose for our life.
Yeah. So we adjusted ourselves to a simple life.
All right. So we're going to quickly then what are some gains? We want to quickly talk about the gains, and then we are going to just say thank you
to each other.
And then we'll allow the folks to have a few questions. So be with us a little bit. What are some gains?
I divided them into intangibles and tangibles.
So tell me quickly, what are the gains?
All right, start with intangibles.
Let's start with the intangibles.
I learned to love.
I think I learned to serve.
I learned how to be at peace in myself, regardless of society's expectations.
I think I learned contentment. The Bible says a man's life consists not in the abundance of what he has. And I have learned to discover the abundance of what I have.
Already have.
Yep.
Yeah.
That there was abundance in this. In having a wife, in being there with my children, in doing life on my terms with God.
Yeah, not because of what society expected or whatever. I think we have developed a deeper relationship with God, first of all, like each of us with God, both of us with God, with each other and with the children, as a result of just taking that time to step back from the treadmill that we were on and just do things differently. Yeah. I think we learned to delight ourselves in God and then watch as He gave us the desires of our heart. And sometimes what He gave us, we wouldn't have wanted that for ourselves, but we then realize, this is what I actually wanted or what I need, right? And I think we learned the importance of remaining responsive and sensitive to God's leading.
Yep. I think I've also learned the value, and it's something Leanne mentioned in the introduction, and I talk about now, the value of becoming a safe person. And I think that becomes so necessary in the valley, that we be safe for the other person.
Yeah. So the valley is where sometimes people turn on each other.
Yep. And become vicious against each other.
Yeah.
Life is hard enough by itself, the pressures of life. We don't need to add anything to that. Just the difficulties, the hardship, the unpredictability. That's hard enough.
What about the tangibles? God has taken care of us on a single income.
Yes, the income has gotten muscles, my friend. Yep.
But even before it had muscles.
Yeah.
He took care of us on a single income.
Yep.
From student days straight through.
And
all our needs are met, and even some of our wants.
Yeah.
A lot of our wants.
Yeah. It has been an amazing journey.
What about having a peaceful home?
priceless. That one, the peace of home, it's
I think we've found our purpose individually and together too, in like a redefined career path. I don't think we could have, where we were like 10 years ago, would have ever imagined ourselves in the careers that we are in now.
No.
I really enjoying something that was way outside of what we were actually doing at that time. But God.
Yep.
But God.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not just
so, but and it's funny, I think your career has maybe turned a little bit. Well, because you still use some of the skills, but not in law. I have
repurposed your
skill set. I've always had a passion for family, but now I think I've grown in terms of credibility
and your capacity.
Yeah. So I want to say thanks.
All right. Go ahead.
Well, you know what? I think the first thing I want to say thank you for is for always being safe. You've always been a safe person, and it stood out the most for me when at the time of my ordination, that was when Michael was born. I remember you were unable to go to the ordination, and we were in a valley then, and that was more emotionally. We were,
the precursor to the valley.
Because I remember you had Mike and you were at your parents' home, and at that point you felt just overwhelmed and frustrated, and maybe that was the first time you said like you feel like you wanted out. And I remember what stood out for me. I was being ordained. You couldn't come to the ordination, but you committed yourself that you were going to support me and see me through. And for me, that stood out in my mind in the context of career, because sometimes when people are down in the valley, they don't support the other person's growth or progress. And it becomes the easiest time to sabotage the other person. And when I look back, I realize you never allowed the struggle you were going through to affect the support you gave to me. Because that was a big moment. As a minister, everybody looks forward to ordination. And you gave your support. I remember your journey to Mandeville when we had our interviews at the conference. And that stood out, that you were a safe person and have been a safe person throughout our journey. So I thank you for that.
Well, I want to thank you for showing up well for our family, for being humble enough to put your career. I want to thank you, for showing up well for our family, for being humble enough to put your career on hold to save our marriage and to stabilize our family. And that means a whole lot to me.
You're welcome. My second thank you is I want to thank you for being open and responsive to God. I think that has been just amazing on our journey. I've watched you being responsive in the difficult days, in the hard time. Your ears have remained open, and that has added value to both of us on our journey. So thank you.
You're welcome. I think as we transition to life in another country, you have given me unwavering support in refocusing my career, and I'm grateful for that.
You're welcome, my friend. And the last thing I want to thank you for is your commitment to excellence.
Tell me more.
From I met you, you have been the consummate professional.
I like it.
Yeah. I've watched you being very deliberate in how you serve people. I've watched you being a lawyer, how you are very deliberate to manage people's money well. I've watched you, some of the times I've been annoyed when you work with people and they don't want to pay you and you allow them to walk away. I've watched you
talking about.
Yes, I have watched you give yourself in what you do. And the good thing is we have felt it in the home. The excellence, we have felt it. And this is where to me, you stand out as the Proverbs 31 woman. She had 7 careers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't count them.
When you count up all that she does, and you stand up as that woman, and I thank God for you.
Okay, I have to talk that. So I think I want to thank you for being a true friend. You've always had my back no matter what. Even when I was giving you a hard time, you always had my back. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I think we'll pause at this time. And any comments, any thoughts, questions, and then we try to send you off to your bed. Leon, over to you.
Well, we're still with you. Sorry. But I'm just here smiling, listening to the powerful gems that you've shared. And I'm grateful for the fact that you've taken us openly, transparently, and vulnerably through your experience. And everything that you have mentioned throughout the silver lining throughout the journey has been listening to God, the experience with God. And the fact is that, I would say that God is the originator, the architect of marriage. And he knows the way to deliver every marriage safely on his journey. And the circumstances are different because each individual's background is different. Family, everything is different. So there will be differences, but if we can listen to the voice of God throughout, then he will guide us safely through. And that stuck with me. I appreciate what's the word? The genuineness in the support that you have shared one with another. And I see that coming out beautifully among so many other things. I want to pause and drink some water, but I'm seeing but I've seen a lot of comments in the chat. I don't know if you have paid a lot of attention, and even on YouTube, I've seen a lot of encouraging comments, and I see that people have really digested the gems that you have shared. One individual was asking a question, had posed a question in the chat, and I think I'd pivot to you in terms of you giving your response to that question. Question was something along the lines of, are you pastoring? Well, I guess person is asking Pastor Jason, are you pastoring? No. And for Nick, are you practicing law?
So no, I am pastoring my family, not pastoring professionally. I serve as an elder at my church. And then Vinique is not doing law presently.
No, I maintain my credentials to practice in Jamaica, but I don't practice law in Canada. No.
Okay. And so somebody mentioned that sometimes we spend time looking for love when we should be preparing ourselves to attract the love we seek. And I think that they have gotten that summarily from what you have said throughout. There are other questions and individuals who are asked. But you are free, saying to everyone, to pose to a person in the chat or to raise your hand. I think Pastor Jason would like to hear questions from you as well, posed by you as well. Brittany is asking the question, how long did the valley moment last?
Wow. The valley started was pregnant with Micah in October 2013. And it lasted until I would say October 2017.
when
you guys came, there was a shift. Yeah, we had challenges, but
Mhm.
that assault on our family, and I honestly, like, the Lord revealed to me that it was an attack on our family, because like our son got burned in the process, in the whole thing. It was every Satan came at us emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, just in terms of sexually, like intimacy, like everything was a total train wreck. Like our son was burnt up, he was in the hospital. It was crazy. So it was like a 2013 to 2017 was
4 years.
5. I wanna say 5 years of just full on brutality. Where, like, we Jamaicans, I say, you're there on your face, nothing now go on. It was,
and it was I think there are times when it was more intense than other times. Yeah. So in all fairness, it wasn't just this ongoing thing. And I think the Lord was good too, where even some of the difficult things, so like the burning of our son, I think God helped us to deal with that so well.
Yeah, because again, he spoke to me and told me that something was gonna happen to him. I thought he was gonna die. So when it happened, the incident happened, I was just so relieved that it wasn't death; it was just an injury, and we worked through that process with God. But it got complicated too. Remember, my best friend and I ended up, my other best friend, because you're under my best friend, but my other best friend and I ended up in the backseat of a police car in Sav.
That's a whole.
Because we decided we weren't leaving leaving our baby in the hospital one more night, because they were being very negligent, and he had developed an infection in his hand. Yeah. And they called the police. And I decided, well, they're gonna have to lock me up. So for the first time in my life, I rode in the backseat of a police car. And my best friend, she's still my ride or die. She was like, well, if they're gonna lock you up, they have to lock me up too. And 2 of us are lawyers. So that was just hilarious. You can laugh now, but it was so bad.
Yeah. I see Brittany's hand, but I saw a question from Lowen. And Lowen was asking, is there anything that you guys would do differently? Looking back on the journey.
I would have gone to find Jason when I was 21 and be like, you belong to me. Let's go. Let's go. We're done. We're not doing this. I got married at 21 and get it over with. And then go back to school afterwards, but I'll marry you first. Just kidding. So we can only back up as far as meeting each other. Unfortunately, we don't get a do-over. But what would we have done differently?
I guess there's not a lot of things we could do differently, to be honest. The process was a learning one for us. If there is a thing I think I could do differently, I am now learning that when you're be present as best as you can be, even in the difficult moments. And the reason why we're saying that, I have come and I've watched Vanique work in spaces that have been, you could say, very challenging. And because of the growth we have gained over those years, we develop a different response.
It spans out into every aspect of your life. I don't think we had, and here's how I'll truthfully answer the question. I don't think we had the spiritual maturity or the background or the upbringing or the support to have done anything differently. Yeah. I think we showed up the best that we could in the circumstances, but I don't think we had the capacity to do more than what we did. Yeah. So we'd have had to have been way more spiritually mature. Yeah. Or been raised in probably a different home, or have different set of resources, or have different people around us to have made different choices. Yeah. I think we rolled with the punches the best way that we could have. And that's not to say we're perfect. We got a lot of things wrong, but looking back at it, I don't know with the resources.
We never had the capacity to do differently.
Yeah, the capacity, the emotional maturity, the knowledge base. Because it's just
there was a lot of growing
that needed to be done. Yeah. We thought we were pretty amazing, but then we realized, wow, you're not all that in a bag of chips. There's more. And the other piece too is even financial literacy. It's just at later stages in our life now that we're learning more about money and managing money well, investing, building businesses, like doing things. So Yeah, I don't think we had the capacity to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be my honest answer.
We have a follow-up to the question that you have asked before. Maybe it's a different point. So Brittany, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure if you guys answered or spoke a little about this, but Sister Edwards, you said that you were given a confirmation by God that Pastor Edwards was your husband, but I heard something regarding a separation that was in place. How did that confirmation that you got from God play into that separation at that time, in that very moment? Did it give you a reassurance that, okay, God said this was the one, so I have to stick by it? Or was it selfishness? What was it that carried you, that confirmation that brought you back together when that separation was in play?
I was at the time when we met very convicted that, God had brought us together, especially with the vision that he had given me. But when things started to get hard, I started to question that. I really questioned that. I'm like, God, if this is from you, why is it so difficult? Shouldn't it be easy when we're obedient? Like, or even if it's hard, like, is it this hard? And that was tough. I think I got angry with God. I was like, I know I didn't do this on my own. I know I heard your voice that day in the car. I know you gave me confirmation after confirmation that this was, even before we got married and I wasn't sure, I went back to you. You said yes. Why is this happening? And I was so angry with him.
But I think a part of it too, Brittany, now what we're discovering is that nothing can compensate for the growth we need to go through.
Even if God reveals.
Yeah. Even if God reveals. And that is it, because it was the same way. Some of the things we have learned is not just from our relationship, but even with Vanika and her business. She was there, and here she was feeling convicted that God says, stop doing criminal law. And so often we feel that once I obey God, then things are just going to flow. And that was not the case. Realize that she got the conviction, but part of that conviction was a redirecting.
It wasn't a blank check to say, I'm going to cash every need that you want. So therefore, if you obey me, I'm going to rain down money from the sky to, whatever. So I think in hearing God say, this is the person, in getting to the point of separation, it's not so much either selfishness or disobedience. It's just God saying, yes, this is the person. And in this process, you are going to learn more about yourself. I'm going to grind you down. I'm going to do all this work on you that needs to be done. And it's hard. Sometimes it's so painful. You have to remove yourself from the process for a little bit to go, God, I can't take this pain anymore. You ever, in a little, you get a cut and they're going to put iodine on it and you're like, and you pull away your hand and your mom's like, give me your hand. And she pulls it back. It's kind of like that. The pain is so intense that you just can't bear it. And I could not take the pain of what God was trying to do in me through our marriage. And I ran away from that.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be my honest answer. Does that answer your question?
Does that answer, Brittany?
He says, wow. So I guess it does.
Okay. Somebody sent me a private question, and the question is a very direct one. And it says, what kept you guys from divorce?
That never came up. So it's funny.
We got to not wanting to be together, but I don't think we got to the point of divorce.
Yeah, that never featured in the conversation. So while we thought about, so like when Vinny came here and the discussion was, she's going to settle down and then I carry the children. We had not gotten to that point of contemplation.
Yeah, we didn't go beyond, okay, when I'm done, because it's a 2-year master. So when I'm done, okay, bring the kids and then you're free to live your life. But we hadn't gotten to, and then we're going to divorce and then we're going to split the assets. And then it was just, as I said to Brittany, and I'm being brutally honest, it was too painful to be in it, but we hadn't thought about what we do when we're out of it. I don't know.
It was sheer overwhelm.
Yeah.
It was sheer overwhelm. And I tell you, part of it too, Brittany, again, we feel that when God gives us something, it should just feel so good. And that's the deception. And I want to answer Lauren's question. Why is it important for us to go through that process of discomfort as we transition from a caterpillar to a butterfly? It's a natural process.
And if you short circuit it, the butterfly's wings are useless, because in that process of coming out of the cocoon, it strengthens its wings.
It's why is it necessary? Because it's natural. It's natural for us.
That's a gem right there.
Yep.
Why is it necessary? Because it's natural.
So what happened? Here it is. God set up. It's so. When I say we are the unlikely matchup, it was on several levels.
Yeah.
Vanique is emotional.
Calibration.
It's like like always out on top of the roof. And I am under the cellar when I came to this thing emotionally. You understand? And we had to learn. So she had to learn to tone down, like bring it down a little. And then I had to be learning to come up. And what our journey has revealed, that there is so much God wants to do in us. So much he needs to do in us. Growth then is natural. Pain is natural.
But we don't want to talk about that.
But we're not talking about it.
Everything beautiful, most things that are beautiful come through a difficult, painful process.
Yep.
But we don't talk about that when we're preparing for marriage. That growth is painful.
And people are squandering a lot of good things.
A lot of the pain is being squandered as well. It's being weaponized against each other, as opposed to being used as a tool to unearth what's inside of us. And like sometimes we need to cough it up and spit it out. When you're young and you have a cold and it's on your chest and you're like, and you're swallowing, your mother's like, no, cough up the cold and spit it out. And you're like, oh.
But I've learned so many things too on the journey, because I look back now and I remember the first time you said you feel like you want to go home.
Yes. We didn't even have any children.
We never had, that's the point I'm going to make. Yeah. You never had any children. And when I look back.
We were just back from our honeymoon. Like a couple months.
So it started, the wanting to go home started when, here it is, when we were dating, we are spending, our courting. We are on the phone 2 o'clock, talking away, texting away. We, like I sent some crazy lyrics at those times. And we got married, and this is where career comes in again. Career comes in, we go out, we are busy. I come in when I'm tired, I don't want to talk. Vanique was from a home where she comes in, and if her father is sleeping, she wakes him up. And he wants her to wake him up. And he's there talking. Don't wake me up when I'm sleeping. So here it is. So the transition, and this is what people don't talk about. When we are transitioning from what we are used to in our home setting, and we are coming together now, it becomes a crazy thing. I have been on my own. Prior to marriage, I would have been on my own for so long. When I come home, I don't have nobody to disturb me.
That's why we should have got married at 21.
Well, that's good. But it's the point is critical. Yeah. The thing about wanting to go home came before the baby and the stuff.
Yeah, because as Jason says, 2 different personalities. I'm the bubbly one to talk, and he's just stoic and whatever.
Yep.
And I get home from work, it's a long day. I want to unpack, I want to talk, I want to curl up like a kitten, and I want to stroke my back, and I want to purr.
If I didn't have a bath, I don't get comfortable to get close. Just stuff like little stuff like that. So it became really instructive to us and now looking back to realize that some of what we experienced, it was not because anybody was bad or evil or you're sinful to be feeling this way. It's growing pains.
Yeah.
And when I look back now, one of the things I've learned from it, and that's why I talk about it, Gloria said, what you'll do differently. And I said, just be present and show up. Because when in looking back now, I realized when Vanique said she wanted to go home, initially I felt hurt because I knew what her deal breakers were: unfaithfulness and abuse. So in my mind, I never hit you. I wasn't unfaithful. What you mean you want to go home? But then I realized that the emotional struggle for her was comparable to if I hit her. In
feeling.
Yeah,
you weren't emotionally present.
Yep.
And if anybody has ever been in a narcissistic relationship, or so, you realize that narcissists are emotionally unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted someone who was emotional. And I accused you, I said, it's false advertising.
Mm-hmm.
When we were courting, you were so emotionally available, and now we're married and you just check out, like press a button and you're gone. And I'm like, I couldn't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know what I needed. And you presented yourself as being that person. I know that we're married. It seems like you're just a totally different person. And I was like, no, I can't do this.
But looking back at it, it's funny, because I understood the challenge I presented for you.
You understood it then?
No.
Oh, no, you understand.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Because I'm like, what are you doing on purpose?
No. So I understand now. But what's funny? As I'm thinking about it now, it dawned on me that I never understand, or it's still just dawning on me that you were too much for me.
Oh, I like that. Tell me more.
So here I was, who not in touch with my feelings.
Uh-huh.
Here's this girl comes in, and she comes in like a flood.
Listen. No, if you are almost 30 and God said that is your husband, tell me you do something different.
She comes in like a flood.
Yes,
and I mean, I think it's going to be very important that when we are transitioning, and for those who are not yet married, and some people are still married, nobody prepares us for this transitional period and the differences.
And the Bible talks about the two becoming one flesh. That one flesh.
It's some serious pain.
Think about it like a skin graft. So you need your grafting. Like, you ever see them graft a tree?
Mm-hmm.
The tree can't cry. So okay, all right, fine. But think about a human being being grafted into another human being. Yeah, we talk about the joyous process and the whatever, but that's not that painful process.
But you know what too? I discovered that, Leon, in my journey, so I am fairly sociable, I get along with people, but marriage put me in a position where it's the first time I'm discovering somebody's putting an emotional demand on me.
Mm-hmm. Because when you're single, you can, if you don't want to be.
When you're single, you talk, you keep a distance, and you show up, and I realized that's part of what made it hard. Now I look back.
And then what annoyed me was, if you wanted sex, though, you could be the sweetest, most emotionally available person on the face of the earth.
That was a miracle. That was a miracle.
Oh, a miracle that happens like every 3 days.
Yes.
No. I was not having it. I called him out on it. I'm like, oh, so now we know how to be nice and emotionally available. I see.
That's a miracle.
Okay, whatever.
I think that's probably a common feature in many marriages.
I've learned that male. When I eventually read the manual, I realized it was a feature of this model.
But so much of what you have said there makes me think about whether God intentionally, he intended marriage to be maybe a tool, the institution to which growing and perfecting could take place. Yes, I'm listening to much of what you said, and I'm just reflecting on my own life. And I'm sure many individuals who are here who are married will say the same thing, that one of the things that nothing can really prepare you for it is marriage being a 24/7 situation, right? The thing is not a 24/7 situation. Courtship is not a 24/7 situation. Well, if you haven't done that kind of enmeshment before marriage, but when you get into marriage, 24/7. It is all day and at night, and it wakes you up. And certainly when it talks about when you talk about the rough edges, these are not identifiable too easily when you are not in a 24-hour situation. And so we are patting ourselves on the shoulder and we feel very good about ourselves. And for me, I was like, the girl I'm marrying is the girl of my dreams, and we are so much together, we are so much alike. And then when we get married, I'm like, at some point, I'm like, we're so different. We're so different from each other. And it is only in that context that you realize those differences, but how do you come through? And you have shared a lot of gems about how to navigate those difficult circumstances and to keep the marriage and the ministry of marriage intact.
Mm-hmm. Two things. Someone asked a question about, talk a little bit about being a safe person in the valley.
Yes.
But before we move on, I want to say too that people will date, court, even for a long period of time, or will live together, and they won't face some of the things you face once you marry. Understand this, that marriage is going to be attacked by the enemy in ways that other relationships simply aren't. And it takes you into a different spiritual realm. That's just a fact, right? Yeah, you see stuff about the person, but once you get married, something shifts supernaturally. And it's like a mirror goes up in front of you and it starts to reveal your true character to you. And sometimes that's really hard to accept. Like, there's lots of stuff about ourselves that we're nose blind to, that only when we get married and we've made that commitment and the enemy goes, okay, I'm full on attacking, and God goes, I'm full on transforming. Mm-hmm. And it's like marriage is that battleground where God and the enemy lock horns, and you see you get to see that great controversy in like a little jar, and it can get really dicey.
And it quickly exposes your flaws and your unconverted parts.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's, when you talk about the safety, that's, I think, where the answer rests. The answer in the safety rests in the parts of us that are not converted. So if you have a vindictive spirit, if you have a spirit where you're easily offended, yes, or when you're offended, you get at the other person, you withdraw affection, you withdraw service. Like all those things.
Stop cooking.
You stop cooking. And
I sabotage the other person.
You sabotage the other person. I speak about when I was being ordained and when he could not come, and at that point felt like she was done, but she commits herself to see me through. You have other people who would be so delighted to do anything to stop what you're doing. And so the safety, the simplest way we can be safe in our valley is that regardless of what is happening, I will not cause harm to the other person.
Yeah, it's just that principle. Yeah. I mean, think about when you and your spouse have a disagreement, you run to your girlfriends and start to say like negative things. And I don't mean like, yes, there has to be a space where you can unpack what you're feeling and you can express and whatever. But then you have the girlfriend who's like, girl, you don't need no man in your life. You don't need a man. You can do bad all by yourself. And then she starts to, come, we're going to go here and we're going to go there and I'm going to introduce you to some friends. And like before you know it.
But that's unsafe and that's going to do harm.
Yeah, but it's so common though. Or the mother-in-law who's going to say, well, you don't have to stay there. Come home.
Yep.
Or the father-in-law who's going to say, that woman is trouble. I told you not to marry her in the first place. And then they start to sow these seeds of discord in your marriage. And before, or the sister who's going to say, I told you shouldn't have married him, blah, blah, blah. Like whatever it is, back to safety.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's going to do harm to the other person, any advice, any counsel, any action that's going to cause harm to the relationship is an unsafe action. It's an unsafe thing to do.
Because the thing about it, Leon, and the spiritual biblical thing is simply this. The Bible says we must overcome evil with good. So the worst thing you could experience is that your spouse is outright evil. Let's say your spouse is outright mean to you in the valley, unkind, or did something wrong. The person who wants to be safe, or purpose to be safe, is that I am going to overcome the evil with good. And then it's going to look different for everybody in that situation. But I can make that resolve. I've seen, as we have journeyed and we have gone through stuff, I've seen when you make that commitment, things are happening, awful things are happening, and I've watched her say to ourselves, I am not going to do this. I am not going to retaliate to that. And we can, by the grace of God, we can make that decision. We can make that decision.
But it's sometimes, and I don't want to trivialize this though, guys. And I know, I don't want to be mindful of the time here. It depends on how you were brought up, right? A lot of it depends on your upbringing, depends on your emotional awareness, depends on the wounds that you carry, your triggers. Like, this is not easy stuff. For example, if you grew up in a home where when something went wrong between your parents, they would attack each other, they would mommy malice daddy, or she don't cook his dinner that day, or however, daddy come, he doesn't speak to her, puts the money on the table, but he doesn't talk to anybody in the house. Then that kind of becomes
your default.
It can become your default setting. Or you can say, because of what I grew up in, I don't ever want to be like that, so I'm going to be the total opposite. Or so many things.
Yeah, that's true.
Like so I don't think sometimes people set out to be awful or mean or hard. It's just what I remember we talked about our capacity or capability that we came to the marriage with. What are the tools that I have? What's my capacity? Can I handle the situation? Some of us have deep emotional wounds and scars. Some of us have been abused. Some things have happened to people that make it difficult for them to show up well when they're in the valley.
That's true.
So we don't want to sort of downplay that piece either, right?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's important because we are looking back now, and you're right. We realize that one of the assets we had, I would say, is our conflict management style.
Yeah.
And that stuck with us throughout our valley. That featured prominently when we were going through stuff. We were always intentional to manage self-management, and self-containment was a key part. And if somebody who manages conflict just generally differently, the valley, how things play out in the valley, gonna be very different.
Somebody who's explosive. You say some things, you can't take them back. Even when you apologize, the hurt is still there. You have left like this big wound in your spouse, right? So it really depends on.
And I would say to anybody, one of the best investments you can make toward your relationship is working on conflict management. So very early one of the first books we got was The Bait of Satan.
Yes.
And that book has proven valuable.
Let's share some resources.
Yeah, and then we'll turn over to Lee.
So 2 minutes to share some resources quickly here. One of them is Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas. And if anybody on admin can quickly just like find it, and it's on Amazon. A lot of this stuff is on Amazon, and just throw it in the chat. That would be great. So Bait of Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas.
And the question in that book that the book answers is, what if marriage was to make us more holy than happy? What if marriage was to make us more holy than happy? So you can then imagine what we're gonna do. It goes down into everything and just uncovers it.
The Bait of Satan, how to live free of the sin of offense. Because once offense sets in, like all bets are off. Every Man's Battle. Because that helps you men to sort of guard their minds,
it's towards sexual purity,
right? But even in your marriage, right?
Especially in your marriage, and for us as men to overcome lust, because
things not working at home, the first thing your mind checked out and you're looking elsewhere, right?
And that creates
every woman's battle, because while women perhaps are not wired necessarily in a way to engage probably immediately sexually in a third-party relationship, they become emotionally attached to another man who's giving them the attention and the care and the concern that they would want from their spouse. So there's this book, Every Woman's Battle. That's an excellent book as well. We read quite a few books. No? Those are the top ones we could think of.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know that you have so many other resources, but I think they fall under other topics. But Natalie could probably put them in the chat, or if she has a third one. If you mentioned the third one, I could add it, but I placed those in the chat. Someone asked me, finally, if you could just quickly respond to this? How do you erase or overcome verbal abuse while the valley is moving forward?
Whew. You want me to take a stab at that one? That's a difficult one because words spoken cannot be taken back. You can apologize, but the harm is already done. And especially depends on what you say. All right, let's use a practical example. Let's say for argument's sake, we have this arrangement where I work, Jason is home with the kids. And we're in a moment where things are tight financially, the bills are piling up, and I get frustrated and something happens. And I say to him, you know, it would have been better if I married somebody with money. Ooh. I can apologize for the next 50 years. It's going to be very, very difficult to repair that damage. Like, I can't unilaterally repair that. I can't just say, look, I'm sorry, and it's gone, because I don't have any idea of what impact that would have on Jason. So the repairing of that damage is not a one-sided affair. It has to come, both parties have to be willing to ventilate it, to say, okay, all right, the argument is done, we're calm, we're cooler now, but can I unpack a little bit of why you said that? What was happening in your head? I want to hear your honest feelings about that, right? And just be honest. If you really felt it would have been better to marry a man who had more money, say that, put that out there. But the other person is willing to hear that, receive that, and go, okay, what does that mean for our marriage? Does that mean that we're settled, that we're moving forward? Or does that mean that you're still looking? Is this something you're entertaining? And you need to answer that honestly as well, too. And if it's something that you said in a fit of anger, but you did not mean it, apologize, make amends, and the other person will have to be willing to forgive. But there's no easy way to repair verbal hurt.
I think you're right on. And I think, Leon, last week I mentioned the 4 pillars of marriage, and one of those is forgiveness.
Yeah.
Marriage is on the basis of forgiveness. The reality is, I don't think we explore this enough. I don't want to make a case for getting things wrong, but getting things wrong gives us opportunities to do some thorough work in forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we spend so much time reflecting on the hurt and the wound, and we don't recognize it becomes opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to be reconciled. It's an opportunity for you for renewal. It's an opportunity for redemption. And hard conversation. And for you to extend grace, because some of the times we are going to discover if you are with somebody who they are erratic sometimes,
right,
or can be just reactive,
explosive,
you have to realize that this person has the tendency to maybe do something that they'll regret or say something. And I think, without making allowance for certain things, but you have to deal with things where you are. You have to deal with the person you have. Now we are looking back on Vanique, as much as she wanted strong emotional thing, she had to make allowance for a man who never had that. If you are in a relationship, the person who has the uncontrolled tongue, when it wounds your wife or so one time, you don't need to wound her 10 times to realize this tongue needs to come under control. But the wife needs to realize, no, I'm gonna have to maybe do a little loving to redeem somebody's tongue. And wounds create opportunity for ministry. And the one who hurt can be ministered to and can step up and be redeemed. And the one who has been hurt can extend grace, and we get opportunity to find the power of God working in our lives.
But we say all of this within the context of a healthy relationship, because there's healthy relationships that are going through, I'm going to say healthy, people who
fairly,
are fairly yes,
decent.
but then you have abusive, toxic,
and those
narcissistic relationships that fall into a totally different
that require
category.
immediate intervention, that require so we want to put it in context.
Yes, because I think for a long time the church has made a lot of arguments for why women and men should stay in marriages that are clearly dangerous and
people are serial violators.
Yes.
So in this, when we're talking this now, we're not talking about serial violating.
No.
We're talking about moment, because it's unacceptable for somebody to get up every day
and constantly verbally abuse
somebody else. So we want to make that clear.
I just want to make that absolutely clear.
But yes.
No, finish your thing.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up on our end. We just want to let those who are here know, thank you for your support. And next week, we look forward to another one. So next week, we are talking about the challenges of parenting. Yeah.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
That's going to be epic.
We have a special guest.
Very special guest.
Very special guest.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to be a good one too. So spread the word, invite someone, and we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
God's willing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And there are a couple of messages of endorsement as well. I see Martha, I believe, had mentioned in the chat that I guess she enjoyed listening to your story. She said, like the donkey who has the dirt thrown on them in the pit, he stood on each of them and came out by God's grace. So she is encouraging you guys and happy that you have pulled through, especially those values that you shared. And by God's grace, you are going forward with him. And then she also had mentioned that there are individuals who are from different backgrounds. It makes it very difficult, as I had said before, for the marriage to work. But with God, all things are possible. The last thing I wanted to say is that something that you said, I believe it was funny, about the issue of offense. And that is one of the things that I believe God wants to help us to, if not master, successfully navigate to the point that we are really ready for marriage, because it can end the marriage when we're very too easily offended or too unforgiving. And both of those things are character flaws that God irons out. And sometimes it is those things that he is helping us to master, to deal with, so that we can be fully prepared to engage in this titanic clash sometimes. So thank you again for sharing so openly, so vulnerably, so effectively, and in a way that each individual can take something from it. Talk about, as you spoke about career and money, you know that these are the heavy hitters. They can ruin marriage, they can ruin relationships, and certainly harm I love when you talk about the ministry of marriage and its potency, its effectiveness in the context of advancing the cause of Christ and his kingdom. And these conversations are really towards certifying marriage as an institution that God created, institution that he has blessed, an institution that can never, as long as God exists, become irrelevant. This is scientific. It's a scientific institution, essentially. And even though many things have gone bad, and many difficulties are being experienced by many individuals, the word of God is true. His principles are eternal. And if we allow him to help us to digest them, then he can live them out through us. So we want to thank you for joining us this evening. And next week, we will have a special guest. Your host will be Pastor Jason. We're going to talk about, as they said, some of the crucibles that come and the challenges that come with children and different aspects that we have to look at. And I'm sure that we will all benefit from that. Those who have children, those who may have, and those who will not want to have, but will still experience in some way, shape, or form that kind of dynamic. So I want to thank you. I want to say God bless you. And we will see you next week. For those who have joined us on YouTube, I see we still have a healthy following on YouTube right up to the very end. I want to thank you so much for being with us. Share the word, share the link with others, get individuals to join the platform, subscribe, share the good news. Lovers in the valley. Love has never lost a fight because God is love. So Jason, can you pray for us? And then
all right, let us pray. Holy God, we come to you just rejoicing in you, recognizing that you are a life giver and you want us to be instruments of life, of peace. God, your presence, you want your presence to come and remain with us. It has been your desire from the Garden of Eden unto your coming again. Your desire is for presence with your people, and you want to make us sanctuaries. We sing the song, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, kind and true. God, we need people today to be sanctuaries. We need it in our marriages, but we need it in our friendship. We need it in our work spaces. We need it in all our interaction. The earth has become callous and hard. People are mean and cruel. And it's so sad that even marriage, a place that we should be seeing love, oh God, we have sometimes lost the ability to care. And we pray this evening that you will renew a right spirit in us. I pray for those who are on the call who may be married, oh God. Somebody may be going through a valley. No. I pray that you will just encourage somebody this evening that something that was shared, somebody may be able to take it and go and resolve even in themselves that they will be a safe person. If they're in a situation that require intervention, they will take the necessary intervention. But there is no excuse or justification for why we are going to be mean or unkind or evil. You have said we have to overcome evil with good. And God, we recognize now it's only you can enable us to do that. Thank you for what you have done in our lives, myself and beneath. And we pray, God, that you'll continue to keep us. And we pray you'll continue to bless marriages. And for those on the call who are yet to make the decision, I pray that these moments will become moments of learning, oh God, that the wisdom that are gleaned by what we're sharing, individuals will rely on you, for we need the assurance of you being with us as we go in the valley of love and we yoke up with another person. Continue blessing this platform. We are so thankful for the TIMEsigns group and for what they have been doing. And I pray you'll continue to grow and bless this ministry. Give us a good Sabbath rest, and we look forward to worship tomorrow in our respective places of worship. And just be with all of us. We ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 When the miles are too high for counting and the hills too steep to climb, when the world outside ain't making sense and the truth's still lost to find, when the line's too blurred for seeing and my wrong's too wrong to right, when I'm hanging by that final thread and my strong's too weak to find, I hear a song, sweet song, singing to my soul. I see a lighthouse in a hurricane and it's leading me back home. When I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Every day I do. Have get just a little taste when he holds me late at night. They both give grace and it's amazing. They both have healing in their hands. And it ain't easy, but they're both making me a better woman. And I hear a song, sweet song, singing to my soul. I see a lighthouse in a hurricane, and it's leading me back home. When I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Every day I do. Every day I do. You've got a ring around your finger, while he got scars on his hands. Why you both promised me forever, God, I'll never understand. But when I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. When I think about the only things in life that pull me through, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you. Oh, I hit my knees and thank the Lord for Jesus and you.